strange it is since Kai insisted he didn't fight the orcs. Kai quickly fabricates an explanation, claiming he must have brushed against one of the dead orcs by accident. The group finally makes it back to the village, but upon arriving, they realize it was assaulted during their absence. As Kai steps through the gates, he spots the troop leader Basco holding one of the wounded men in his arms. Kai approaches him to find out what exactly took place. Basco tells him that the village came under attack from an overwhelming number of guerrillas, but thanks to Vezin's intervention, they managed to push them back. Even so, as is clearly visible, the village suffered heavy damage from the assault. Kai dashes to the refuge area, where everyone who lost their homes has gathered, and calls out for Elsa, praying she survived the attack. To his relief, Elsa's voice echoes from down the hall. She's still alive, and Kai is overjoyed to see her safe and sound. Meanwhile, the group takes Jose to Vezin, who is stunned to see that even Jose has been afflicted. He explains that Alha is showing the same symptoms and admits he understands the cause behind it. At the same time, a scouting party was dispatched to gather information on the guerrillas. To their terror, they find that the guerrillas have summoned reinforcements and are getting ready to launch another assault. Meanwhile, in the village, Kai assists Elsa in tending to the injured villagers, still struggling to accept how severely the village was destroyed. When the attack first began, Elsa had fled here with her mother and younger sister. She had been terrified, but just remembering Kai's face gave her a sense of safety. The moment Elsa says this, Grandma realizes she and Kai are about to share a special moment, so she quietly slips away. Kai turns to Elsa and begins to express his gratitude for the rice balls she prepared for him. However, before he can finish speaking, Manso suddenly appears and informs him that Vezin needs to see him right away. Kai makes his way to Vezin's office to deliver his mission report. Vezin expresses relief that the orcs have been neutralized as a threat, though he reminds Kai that the guerrilla problem still remains. Kai inquires about Jose and Alha's condition. Vezin explains that the guerrillas have cursed the land gods bound to Jose and Alha. It was a calculated move to eliminate the village's most powerful defenders. He adds that according to their earlier reconnaissance, the guerrillas appear to be mobilizing for another assault soon. Nada explains to Vezin that once the curse is removed, they'll regain their ability to fight. Because of this, he requests Kai to join him in breaking the curse. The reason he specifically chooses Kai is his strong belief in Kai's power. Vezin, too, has confidence in Kai, so he gives him his blessings and informs him that his journey will take him to Elg, to Alha's god, and then to Edda, to Jose's god. The fate of Lag Village depends entirely on the success of this mission, but Vezin is putting his trust in Kai, and for Jose's sake, Kai vows to give it everything he's got. He and Nada then step out of Vezin's office, but as they make their way down the stairs, they hear Gandalf shouting. Even in the middle of this crisis, Kai can't help but wish Gandalf would actually contribute, especially since he's a guardian bearer, but considering how useless Gandalf tends to be, Nada doubts he'll be any help at all. In any case, Nada has a few things to get ready for the journey, so he tells Kai to meet him at the North Gate once he's prepared. Meanwhile, Kai pays Elsa a visit and at last expresses his gratitude for the rice balls she prepared. Elsa is happy that the meal supported Kai during his mission, but he informs her he must set off on another journey today. Still, he reassures her that he'll return as quickly as he can, and when he does, he vows to take Elsa to a truly special place. Elsa takes Kai's hands and tells him she'll eagerly await his return. Yet, as Kai walks away, she can't help but already feel his absence. Kai finally reunites with Nada at the North Gate, where Nada appears to have been given a bag by Vezin to aid in breaking the curse. Meanwhile, Jose and Alha continue to suffer greatly from the curse's effects. After a few hours, Kai and Nada have just reached the village of Elg, where the land god of Alha is located. If the guerrillas deliberately went through the trouble of cursing the gravestone in this place, they must be keeping watch to prevent anyone from lifting the curse. Nada announces that he'll scout ahead and immediately activates his surveillance technique. Kai realizes it's the same presence he detected during his fight with the Durekin. Nada explains that this power is known as 100 Eyes, a secret art he mastered at the monastery, granting him the ability to observe anything, no matter the distance. After scanning the area, Nada reports that just 5 guerrillas are stationed at the gravestone, meaning the 2 of them should have no trouble dealing with them. The moment they reach the gravestone, Kai leaps into action, slashing one gorilla's throat before driving his blade into 2 more. He then moves to support Nada, only to find his companion more than capable of holding his own in battle. Kai is surprised by Nada's impressive skill, but in the heat of combat, he doesn't notice that his divine crest has been exposed. However, Nada had already suspected its existence, and seeing it, he drops to one knee. He pleads with Kai to wield the power of the savage god for the sake of the unified kingdom of men. Kai tells Nada there is no need for him to bow his head, but Kai really doesn't want to talk about this right now, so he says they should take care of the curse on Alha's land god. Nada agrees to drop the topic for now, so he begins cleaning up the gravestone while Kai stands guard. As Nada cleans up, he elaborates to Kai on why the unified kingdom desperately requires a new, mighty god. It isn't merely about strengthening the realm. The human kingdom is actually in steady decline year after year, and the root of this decay lies with figures like Gandalf. The kingdom's most formidable guardian bearers have grown corrupted by their own authority and the comforts it affords them. In their complacency, they've neglected their their sacred responsibilities, and this negligence has gravely weakened the gods who uphold the king's reign. Without intervention, Nada warns, this downward spiral will only worsen. Nada explains that if the kingdom were still as strong as it once was, then reinforcements could have been deployed to assist during disasters like this. But with things as they are now, the number of tragedies will continue to rise year after year, because their current roster of gods can't support the king anymore. That's why Nada has been looking for a new god to strengthen the kingdom, even if it means tearing down the current hierarchy. Nada starts performing the curse-breaking ritual, prompting Kai to ask about the liquid he's pouring over the gravestone. Nada clarifies that the deity of Elg village serves the lag's god, meaning Vezin's blood, as the guardian bearer, can neutralize the curse. Once the blood fully absorbs into the stone, Nada announces the ritual's success. Now, he says, they must hurry to Ida village to repeat the process and free Jose from his affliction. As the journey continues, Nada launches into another speech about the shifting state of the world. He highlights how the gorillas, in their desperation, were even ready to undermine the land gods and throw the land into chaos just to secure victory. Kai questions what Nada means by desperate. Nada then clarifies, based on his research, that the gorilla nation is confronting a massive threat, one so severe it might drive them from their homeland. That's why they're invading human territory, to seek a new place to settle. It's the same with the orcs that Kai killed yesterday because they were looking for a new god in order to face the being that is threatening them in the north. With all the changes happening, Nada is worried that the kingdom of humans might be destroyed as a result, so he asks Kai to lend the power of his god to the kingdom of humans and save millions of lives. Kai finds Nada's story quite convincing. However, out of nowhere, the valley god starts urging him to kill Nada, leaving Kai uncertain about whether he can truly trust him. He asks Nada for a bit of time to think things over, and while Nada agrees to wait, he makes it clear that he expects an answer once they've lifted the curse on Hosea's land god. Meanwhile, back in the village, the mark on Alha's body has begun receding thanks to the efforts of Kai and Nada, and if Alha regains enough strength to join the fight, then the villagers of Lag have a good chance of surviving. Kai and Nada finally reach the gravestone in Edda after defeating the gorillas protecting it. Nada starts working to break the curse. Meanwhile, Kai steps outside for a walk, reflecting on the power he now holds. He's been unsure about how to use it. If it's for a noble purpose, like saving lives, perhaps that's the right path. Still, he can't figure out why the valley god was so furious with Nada. At that moment, Nada steps outside and questions whether Kai has reached a decision yet, but Kai remains uncertain. Nada attempts to convince him, explaining that by joining the kingdom's mausoleum, he would earn the god king's favor, and with it, a tremendous boost in power. Enough that rescuing the people of Lag would be effortless, especially those Kai holds dear, like Elsa. That makes sense. But Kai also feels responsible for people beyond the village, including the Korers, who have sworn their loyalty to him. Yet Nada insists that he must leave the Korers behind. Kai demands an explanation. Nada then clarifies, the kingdom's mausoleum refuses to accept lowly demi-humans, regardless of their peaceful nature. Humans stand above all, and mingling with other species is simply unthinkable. Kai insists that the Korers are anything but lowly, but Nada brushes off his words. Instead, he urges Kai to dedicate his power solely to humanity, no one else. But if those are the kingdom's conditions, Kai declares he has no choice but to decline. As a guardian bearer, his duty is to defend his land god and all who dwell within its domain. Abandoning the Korers is simply not an option. Nada questions whether anything might sway Kai's decision, but Kai remains unwavering in his response. To Nada's surprise, he simply smiles and states that if Kai won't accept the terms, he'll have to let go of recruiting him. For now, he even assures Kai that he'll come up with an excuse to keep his superiors from pursuing him further. Kai genuinely thinks he's being honest, but just moments later, Nada betrays him, stabbing him in the back, and now Kai is bleeding a lot. Kai collapses to his knees, utterly shocked, as he never imagined Nada could betray him in this way. Nada calmly reveals that the blade he just plunged into Kai is a god-killer knife, a weapon capable of piercing a guarding bearer's defenses and draining their strength for a time. He states that Kai's arrogance led him to believe he could wield such power for his own loved ones, when in truth, all immense power must be governed by the kingdom. That's why, Nada intends to end Kai's life and claim his power by consuming his godstone. Kai attempts to summon his divine crest to retaliate, but the god-killer knife still lodged in his back. The pain becomes unbearable. Nada forces Kai to the ground and yanks the blade from his back, preparing to deliver the final strike. He assures Kai there's no need to fear, his legacy will be remembered in history. However, just as Nada moves to extract Kai's godstone, Kai slips free from underneath him and launches a kick that sends Nada flying. Back in the village, the townspeople are busy getting their defenses ready for the approaching gorilla invasion, but anxiety fills the air as they know no reinforcements are coming to help. Vezin warns everyone that the gorillas could strike at any moment, and while he understands their fear, he promises to do everything within his power to stand and fight alongside them in protection of the village. The men of the village are assembled outside, readying themselves for the upcoming battle, while those wounded in the previous attack, among them Elsa and her family, receive treatment inside the castle's shelter. Meanwhile, on Kai's side, Nada is trying to persuade him to give up and allow himself to be killed for the greater good of the human kingdom. Nada argues that the power of a god could save innumerable human lives. Though Kai doesn't disagree, he also has his own people in the valley to protect, and for that reason, he refuses to let Nada take his power. Nada realizes that Kai is unwavering in his decision, and since his surprise assault didn't work, he braces himself for a deadly battle. But just as he's about to strike, a gorilla suddenly appears and slams into him with an axe. At that exact moment, the assault on the village begins, and while the villagers are putting up the best defense they can, but the gorillas are throwing too many rocks, making it clear they won't be able to hold out much longer. At that moment, Vezin steps forward to take charge personally, but deeper within the forest. The gorilla leader nears the battlefield and gives the order to launch their next attack. As a result, the gorillas begin hurling flaming rocks at the village. Meanwhile, on Kai's side, a massive rock is launched at Nada, forcing him to fall back. But as he runs, he's pursued by a gorilla and strike with an axe, leaving him no choice but to defend himself. Kai could have slipped away now that Nada is occupied. But sadly, two more gorillas are on the scene, both fiercely intent on killing him. Kai finds himself cornered alongside Nada as the three gorillas begin questioning them. The leader steps forward, revealing that he is a guardian bearer, and asks both Kai and Nada if they were responsible for lifting the curse that had been placed on the stone in this area. Neither of them answers, but it makes no difference because the gorilla declares he won't allow them to leave this place alive. As it happens, all three gorillas are guardian bearers, which begins to unsettle Nada since he's aware he can't take them on alone. But when Kai figures out that these are the very gorillas responsible for cursing Jose and Alha, he rises to his feet, his eyes burning with fury, and vows they'll pay for what they've done. A gorilla attempts to stab Kai with a spear, but Kai swiftly steps aside to dodge the attack. As the second gorilla swings at him, he leaps backward to avoid the strike. Yet before he can land safely, he gets impaled on the spear and is hurled into the wreckage of a house. Just as the gorilla moves in to deliver a final, deadly strike, Kai manages to rise and slash its stomach. However, the cut isn't deep enough to kill the gorilla outright. Meanwhile, Kai's earlier wounds refuse to heal, all because of that cursed knife Nada used on him. Not long after, Nada arrives and demands to know where the gorillas have gone, but Kai isn't about to let himself be betrayed a second time. He prepares to activate his energy blade, ready to eliminate Nada once and for all. But before the two can even begin their fight, the gorillas start mocking them from outside. Nada declares that he refuses to allow the power of Kai's god to end up in the gorilla's hands. As one of the gorillas lunges at him, Nada warns them not to underestimate his strength, spinning his staff rapidly to block their strikes. But it turns out he wasn't as powerful as he believed. After just a few brutal blows from the ape, he's sent crashing to the ground, completely defenseless. The gorilla looms over him, lifting its axe for the killing strike. Yet, at the very last moment, Kai leaps into action and rescues him. Nada can't believe Kai would actually help him after what happened between them earlier. But just then, another gorilla charges in, spear aimed straight for Kai. Without hesitation, Nada repays the debt, summoning his flame magic to create chaos and buy them both time to flee. When they finally reach safety, Nada turns to Kai and asks why Kai would rescue someone who'd literally just tried to murder him. Kai mentions that his body seemed to move on its own, which Nada finds amusing. Yet, at the same time, Nada is beginning to grasp why the arbitrator god decided to bestow such immense power upon Kai. Meanwhile, the gorillas have started scouring the area for the two of them, and it won't be long before they're discovered. Nada insists that they must devise a plan immediately. The odds aren't in their favor, but Nada steps closer to Kai and assures him that if he follows his directions carefully, they both might just survive this. Kai questions Nada, asking if he's certain about helping him, because if Kai makes it out alive, nothing would stand in his way if he decided to kill Nada afterward. Nada admits he wouldn't even hold it against Kai if that happened, but that's an issue to worry about another time. Right now, Nada still hasn't had the opportunity to witness the full extent of Kai's power. Though Kai doesn't trust Nada, he realizes he doesn't have many options left, so he reluctantly agrees to follow Nada's plan. With the gorillas closing in on their hiding place, Kai dashes out to distract them, while Nada slips away to find a safer spot. Despite their massive size, these gorillas are especially threatening due to their uncanny ability to blend into their surroundings, making it nearly impossible for Kai to track their exact position. But that's when Nada steps in, activating his 100 Eyes technique to detect the gorillas' locations and alerting Kai just before they strike. Thanks to Nada's warnings, when one of the gorillas attempts to ambush Kai, he spots it in time and swiftly cuts its head instantly. Nada then alerts him to another attacker descending from above, so Kai simply stands his ground and slices it in two with his energy blade. Nada is stunned by Kai's incredible skill, but in his awe, he loses focus on his surroundings, allowing the last gorilla to sneak up on him. Despite Nada's desperate efforts to defend himself, the gorilla manages to stab him through the chest. Nada lets go of his weapon and collapses to the ground. Just as the gorilla believes victory is his, Kai comes crashing down from above and cuts it cleanly in half. The battle is officially over, or at least Kai's part is, because with that spear piercing through his lungs, I doubt Nada is going to hold on much longer. Back in the village of Lag, Olha has finally shaken off the curse's effects and rises to his feet, though he's clearly confused since he has no idea what caused the change. Right then, he hears a disturbance outside and quickly realizes it must be the gorillas, prompting him to try getting out of bed to join the fight. His maid, Akui, tries to stop him, knowing he's still in poor condition, but Olha insists he can't wait any longer. He orders her to bring him a sword and a fresh set of clothes, and since it's a direct command, Akui has no choice but to comply. Meanwhile, Kai is doing everything he can to ensure Nada makes it through, so he pulls him into a house and attempts to give him one of the gorilla's godstones. Nada can't help but laugh at how hard Kai is striving to keep him alive after all that's gone down, and while drinking a godstone would usually be enough to fix most injuries, here it just wouldn't make a difference. Nada explains to him that the gorilla's spear destroyed part of his godstone, and there's no way to repair something like that. His sight is already starting to blur, so he tells Kai that this is where his journey ends. But Kai won't give up so easily. He remembers that he possesses healing magic, so he desperately attempts to use it to save Nada, yet no matter how fiercely he struggles to seal the wound, nothing changes. Nada realizes that Kai is using a healing miracle, and he's stunned that Kai has gained such an ability in addition to his invisible blade. He tells Kai that he's gone beyond the limits of an ordinary human, and that's precisely the kind of strength the world requires at this moment. Nada has already come to terms with his fate, so he urges Kai to stop wasting his efforts on healing him. With a trembling hand raised toward the sky, he begs forgiveness from his high priest for failing in his mission to recover the god. But he has no regrets because he got to witness the arbitrator god's phenomenal power firsthand. Nada then closes his eyes one final time, and as if on cue, rain begins pouring down on Kai. Meanwhile, back in the village, Jose finally regains consciousness, disoriented because her last memory was passing out in Yuzel's village. Yet now she finds herself in her father's room. Suddenly, a loud crash echoes from outside, and moments later, Akui rushes in to see if she's alright. Jose demands to know what's happening, and Akui quickly explains that the guerrillas have launched an attack on the village. Akui also delivers a message from Vezin. He's instructed that if the situation turns dire, Jose must escape the village to guarantee her safety. The words sting Jose deeply. While she knows her father only wants to protect her, it pains her that even now, he doesn't believe she's strong enough to stand beside him in battle. Jose steps out of her room and is met with a crowd of people packed into the hallway. She turns to Akui and demands an explanation. Akui replies that Vezin ordered all the women and children to take shelter inside the castle until the fighting ends. But that wasn't Jose's real question. What she wanted to know was why these people were being left to wait in the cramped corridor. Jose raises her voice and tells everyone that they can use her room, and they should feel free to use anything inside it as well. She also assures them that the Moloch family will fulfill its duty and defeat the guerrillas, so they don't need to panic. Meanwhile, two soldiers burst into Gandalf's chamber to alert him about the guerrilla invasion, only to find the room empty. One suggests that maybe Gandalf went out to join the battle, but the other immediately scoffs at the idea, knowing full well how lazy their leader truly is. If anything, he probably took off the moment the fighting broke out, and the soldier was correct, because at this very moment, Gandalf is rushing out toward the village gates. Suddenly, a rock comes flying straight at him, and Gandalf panics. It seems all those stories about Gandalf being more powerful than Vezin were nothing but lies. The truth is, he's nothing more than a fraud, and the only reason he ever held any authority was because he'd been hiding behind Nada's strength this whole time. On top of the wall, Elsa has been delivering food to the soldiers to help replenish their energy. She apologizes for not being able to prepare something better, but the soldiers deeply appreciate her kindness. Just as Elsa is about to go back down to gather more food rations, she notices Gandalf attempting to open the front gate, and she starts to wonder if he's heading out to join the fight against the guerrillas. But then she overhears him saying he needs to get back to the capital right away. He insists they open the gates at once, but the men have been struggling for some time and just don't have the strength to do it. Finally, Gandalf notices there's a crank for the gate, so he begins turning it to open the gates himself. When the others see what he's doing, they rush down to try and stop him. They warn Gandalf that opening the gate now could let the guerrillas inside, but he doesn't give it a second thought. Rather than listening, Gandalf chooses to drive his blade into the soldier captain's stomach, then tells everyone to back off and leave him alone. Nobody had ever liked Gandalf much in the first place, but now that he's murdered one of their comrades, they're ready to swarm him. But before they can act, Gandalf seizes Elsa and uses her as a human shield to keep them at bay. He doesn't give a damn about this village or what happens to it. His only concern is saving his own skin. The moment his carriage pulls up, he slashes the rope to release the gates. Still keeping Elsa as his prisoner, Gandalf makes his escape, completely abandoning the village to its fate. So, the moment the guerrillas notice the gate is open, they walk straight through, ready to destroy everything. As the guerrillas walk through, all the remaining soldiers have no choice but to fight, though most stand little chance against the guerrillas. Seeing this, Vezin leaps down from the wall to come to their rescue. He takes down 3 of the guerrillas with ease, but many more remain, making survival in this fight far from guaranteed. Meanwhile, Kai races back to the village at full speed, aware that even Vezin's presence won't be enough to hold off the entire guerrilla troops. He still hasn't figured out the right way to wield his power, but one thing is certain, he's determined to protect the village, and that's exactly what he intends to do. Back in the village elders receive the alarming news that the main gate has been breached, a disastrous turn of events. Yet, Vezin is there, fighting to hold back the guerrillas. Strangely, this only deepens their concern, as they suspect the guerrillas' true target is Vezin's Godstone. Meanwhile, Gandalf is leaving behind the chaos he created, fully aware that the village of Lag is doomed. Still, he takes satisfaction in having successfully kidnapped Elsa for himself. But Elsa has other plans, refusing to let him lay a hand on her, and with a sharp kick, she sends him stumbling back. Back in the village, Vezin is beginning to struggle under the relentless assault of the guerrillas. But then, Manso and the remaining soldiers devise a clever plan. They paint divine crests on their faces, pretending to be guardian bearers, though they're still just ordinary soldiers. The guerrillas don't realize that, and their confidence wavers. That brief moment of hesitation is all Manso, and the others need to strike and take the guerrillas down. Now that the guerrillas inside have all been dealt with, the remaining soldiers attempt to seal off the main gate to prevent any more from entering, although they succeeded in sealing it quickly enough to halt further guerrilla advances. The creatures are now making another attempt attempt to smash their way in. This means it's just a question of when, not if, they'll break through. Manso and the rest urge Vezin to step back and allow them to take control of this zone themselves. They can't afford to put him in danger. Flynn points out that Vezin and the land god are essentially one and the same, so his survival is crucial. As long as he remains unharmed, the village can always be restored in time. At the same time, Kai is nearing the village at last, but the overwhelming swarm of gorillas leaves him stunned. Soon, the gorillas spot Kai, and they immediately charge straight at him to strike, but Kai stands firm, prepared for